Welcome to the Short Funk Podcast. I'm Tom Barbalet, and today I want to carry on the Australian film theme. A close friend of mine stayed with me maybe more than a year ago now. He came here and stayed for about 3.5 weeks, from the end of Thanksgiving to the week before Christmas. I'd known him all his life. He's quite a precocious character, and when he was 19, he walked into a film producer called Ronin Films. All the worse for wear. I've talked a bit about this on Stone Ape. You may remember that story if you're a Stone Ape listener. And he proceeded to have a long conversation with the owner of Ronin Films associated with Bridge. That's a card game for folks who are uninitiated. Having had a long conversation with him about Bridge, he was offered to publicise a film. He was the film's publicist. I think there might have been other publicists as well. But he was part of the publicity crew at Ronin Films that publicised a film called Shine. Now, no one had heard about Shine at that stage. And I was amazed, firstly, that my friend had gotten such an interesting job. And I also went into Ronin Films periodically and talked to them. And I kind of got familiar with some of the Ronin Films folk as well. I went and saw a preview of Shine before it had ever been released. And it was the most amazing film that I could ever imagine at the time, primarily because of my friend's relationship to the film, that they'd employed him for like 8 months just to be him, to wander around and do publicity-related stuff for all the stars and, all this kind of stuff, which was just astonishing at the time. But also because I think it captured a very interesting element of, migrant Jewish culture, particularly associated with the father character who, according to the other children, the other Heathcott children, were much maligned in the film. And the interesting juxtaposition, because I actually think the father was quite clearly a troubled character, but also someone who was capable of immense warmth and interaction. But the way in which he held his son back, as they say outside the film, because he was concerned about the son's mental issues, and just his behaviour of associated, knowing best, and it was his mentality, reminded me so much of my childhood experiences in Australia, not necessarily just with my father, with my parents in general, and, broader family, and broader society, really, that I thought Shine was an amazing example of just natural ability in order to escape the gravitational pull of Australia. And the film was so central to my life that when I finally left Australia, when I finally experienced what I experienced, coming to the US, spending vast quantities of time with one childhood hero and seeing another childhood hero periodically, I kind of thought that I was just destined to have a similar kind of situation. Perhaps a nervous breakdown. I did collapse on the street once. I was taken to hospital. But I just thought to myself that this film was almost an omen associated with my life and my experience. And if you consider from where I came to in the US and the fact that I left the US very rapidly and all the related stuff associated with that, I thought that the film was some way emblematic of the experience of people that fight so hard to get out of Australia. And for that reason, I think Shine is a film that I'll keep periodically coming back to. I know all the lines of it. I never watched it to excess. There's another film I'll talk about where I watched to excess. But the thing associated with Shine that really captures my imagination is associated with the fact that it represents so many elements of my Australian experience as well. In something which obviously is a very selective account of Heathcott's particular experiences, but I find it difficult to think of Heathcott other than this strange childlike character, even still to today. And the element of wonder and the element of... There's a term associated with his particular condition, which just basically means that he talks inappropriately and all this other kind of stuff. But I think really we all have those elements within us. We just have to repress them in some regard in order to survive in the broader dubious society. When it won the Oscars, when it did everything that it did, it surprised me. Because normally these kind of Australian films, and the fellow who produced Sirens also produced a film called The Year My Voice Broke, and various other films, again, using the actor who played the teenage Heathcott. It just seemed like these Australian films would never get the momentum in order to get out of Australia. But Shine proved all that wrong, and it was able to do an amazing thing. And to have my childhood friend so intertwined with this thing was also something that I just can't get rid of when I see the film. Tom Barbalet in San Jose, signing out.